Hi everybody, hope you're okay. It has been quite a while since I've done one of these walkthrough videos. In fact, I think it's been well over a year. But I hear good things, so I will redo another one. For the avoidance of doubt, I am a geography teacher, and I have been doing this for a long time. Hopefully this will help you to feel a bit more confident in the AQA geography exams for GCSE. I'm going to try and speed this one along a little bit because some of my other videos are quite long, and I really want to try and keep it maybe under 30 minutes just to help you out. I don't want to waffle so much. A couple of quick notes as well. I often will use phrases. I'm trying to use the pen here. I will often use phrases like ECS. Now, that for my students stands for evidence, comment, stretch. But you may know this if you're not one of my students. You may know this as PEE, so point, evidence, explain. So we just have a slightly different way of teaching that. This is not an official AQA paper. This is a mock that we came up with, so just be aware of that. And just also be aware as well that the purpose of these videos is not really to tell you the answers, it's to kind of show you how to pick apart questions. So for you to hear how an expert does it, and for you to be able to sort of familiarise yourself with these questions. That's the purpose of these videos. It's not to give you all the answers, it's to help you understand how these sometimes unclear questions can be tackled. So I'm looking at the time. I'm going to set about half an hour. So here we go. Hopefully all the technology works as it should. Oh, and if ever you need to just read a question before I go through it, I'll just allow a moment of silence when I turn pages so that you're able to pause and just scan the page. So here we go. First question, complete figure 1 by adding the information to the table below. We can see here tropical storm, landslide and river flood, geological, hydrological and atmospheric. That one is really simple. You just read it and place the words into the correct spaces. I'm not going to go through this because a bit of revision should help you out here, but pretty straightforward. Have a little look. So which of the following is a secondary effect of an earthquake? This one for us would be lost income. Okay. Just remember, homelessness is not a secondary effect of an earthquake. According to AQA, homelessness is a primary. So again, when you pause it, you could have a bit of a think about the question before listening to me. Okay, so we have got a map here showing plate boundaries, and we've got some volcanoes and earthquakes upon there as well. Now, for a question like this, you really just need to be getting these right. You can't get these wrong because the answer is literally here. It is in this map. So you've got to read the guidance and just take your time with it. Okay. So earthquakes occur at random. There is no pattern. Well, we can see that is incorrect. As you can see, they are quite clearly in very specific areas around plate boundaries. So that is incorrect. It's not that one. Volcanoes only happen on plate boundaries and margins. Well, if we have a little look for those red triangles, we can clearly see there are volcanoes occurring that are not actually near plate boundaries. Okay, so that B can't be correct. C, earthquakes only happen on land. Well, quite clearly that's incorrect. So that means our answer there is D. So just look out for that. Okay, our first mid-tariff question. Have a pause. Okay, so when I'm looking at this, first of all, I'm thinking that my command word is explain. So I've got to show some understanding. Formation of volcanoes at destructive plate boundaries. And I'm looking here, I've got a 4 marker. Now, this question is in the physical paper, and formation is often what we call the process model. This is not ECS, this is process. So I'm thinking here, firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally. I'm putting it into that kind of structure. Formation, you've got to say how it forms. Okay, how do volcanoes form at these plate boundaries? Now again, I am not looking to teach you the whole answer here, but effectively what we're looking for is that at destructive plate boundaries, you've got one plate going underneath the other. Okay, what you then get because of that is that the oceanic plate here begins to melt. The magma forces its way through the continental plate, and eventually, obviously some steps are missing because I'm being quite quick, you will then get the formation of a volcano. So with this question, really straightforward, bit of revision should see you through, but firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally. Or you might do it in 3 steps, you might do it in 5 steps. You've just got to make sure you've got that clear process of this is how it starts and this is how it ends. Okay. Have a look. Okay, so again, we've got another mid-tariff question here. We've got figure 3. We have got 4 pictures. And we've got our question. With reference to figure 3, in your own knowledge, explain why people continue to live in areas from a tectonic hazard, or at risk from a tectonic hazard. So, I've got my explain here. So I need to show understanding. I need to show that I get it. Okay, I need to show understanding. I need to show that I get it. It is a 6 marker. So for my students, this would be ECS times 2. Or if you're not one of mine, point evidence explain times 2. You're doing 2 developed paragraphs. And you must make reference to figure 3. You have to talk about figure 3 in some way, shape or form. So you don't have to use all of figure 3, but you may say, oh well, certain buildings like the Transamerica Pyramid are earthquake resistant, so people feel safer. They're able to stay in the area and work and earn an income. Or you may say the emergency services in the area are well trained, such as in Japan, meaning that people feel safer and they can be cared for better if an earthquake strikes. Remember, you don't have to use the whole figure. We just need to see that it is being used. It says here, your own knowledge. So here, for example, you may choose to include some case studies. Now, for my guys, that could be L'Aquila in Italy or Nepal. So you may say a reason why people choose to stay or continue to live in areas at risk in Nepal is because they do not have the money to be able to afford to move elsewhere. Or you could say tourists visit Mount Vesuvius. This is like Nepal when people visit the country to go to Mount Everest or the Himalayas. So again, you're breaking it up. ECS times 2, showing that you've used the figure. Okay, let's move on. Okay, 1.6, have a little look. Really straightforward. You just finish the table. With questions like this, you've just got to get them right. You just finish the table. So you can see here, 2020, 9.4. So if you literally look, it's just going to be here, look. You just join the line. Good rule of thumb. If the lines are straight, you do straight lines. And then here, look, the mean temperature increase. So what you do is you would work out the difference in these areas here, and then you would find the mean. Answer to 2 decimal places. Pretty straightforward. Pause it and have a look. Okay, again, remember, I'm not here to just give you the answers, but let's have a little look. So we have got scenes on a UK beach during a recent heat wave, and a red warning being issued by the Met Office. And it says, using figure 5 and a UK example you have studied, outline how extreme weather can be managed. Now, an outline is what I would call a hidden explain. It just wants you to explain it. A UK example, there's a few you could have for this. You could have Beast from the East. You could also be a Maverick, and you could go for the 2022 heat waves, the really warm ones, which I'm sure you'll remember. Could talk about that. It's a 4 marker, no formation, so it is EC, so it'll be EC times 2. So you've got one, clear as day. It says, how can it be managed? Well, we've got one right there. I'll even change the colour. Okay, so we have got the red warnings. You can talk about that and how that keeps people safe. You have to explain how that keeps people safe. So you could say it makes people aware. So then they are able to better care for themselves. They can keep out of the heat. Okay, so you can mention that. You could then maybe also talk about school closures. Okay, you could talk about workplace closures. Okay, again, showing that you understand. Another way extreme weather can be managed is schools can be closed. This means that students are kept safe from illnesses such as heat stroke, easing the pressure on the healthcare service. So have a think about that. But EC times 2 there. I think a big one for a question like this is look at the figure. Again, this question is pushing you towards it. The figures will often do that. They will push you towards an answer. So look at them. Okay, 1.9. Adaptation is when we make changes to reduce the risks of climate change. Explain 2 ways you can manage climate change through adaptation. Command word, 2 ways, climate change, adaptation. It's 4 marks. This is not a formation question, so it's EC times 2. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You've just got to explain a couple of ways that adaptation can manage climate change. So here, there's all manner of things you could talk about, but remember, adaptation, okay, is changing to live with the problem of climate change. You are not mitigating it. Mitigation is when you're trying to stop or slow climate change. So renewable energy, recycling, electric cars, riding bikes, using public transport. All of that is mitigation. Adaptation is changing to live with it. So for example, you might have seawalls to keep coastal flooding out. You might have floodgates. Okay. You might have homes on stilts. Okay, you may move people away from coastal areas. Okay, you may install mangroves. Okay, so these here are ways that you can adapt. Okay, not mitigate. Okay, during this mock series, a lot of my students, you'll know who you are, wrote about mitigation here instead of adaptation and missed the easy marks. Okay. So we have reached the high tariff 9-mark question with SPAG. But again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think sometimes there's a tendency to overcomplicate these. Using an example you have studied, evaluate the responses to a tropical storm. Right, so for my guys, this is Typhoon Haiyan. Might be something different for you. Evaluate clearly wants us to do positives and negatives. And this is responses, not impacts. You can include impacts, but it doesn't want impacts, it wants responses. It's a 9 marker, so it's ECS times 3, and maybe a bit of a conclusion as well. Remember, my guys, this will make sense to you. Everyone else it won't. Remember AQA. Knowledge, understanding, application. That's what you need to show here. And remember, my guys, as well, that pyramid mentality. Have a go. You might get something. So here, you could be, I'm going to go basic level, but here you could be talking about search and rescue. You could be talking about shelters. You could be talking about shelter kits. You could go long term. Actually, you could talk about the USS George Washington, okay, big aircraft carrier that went and helped. Long term, you could be talking about cyclone shelters. You could be talking about, basically they built houses further away. You can be talking about all manner of different things here. But remember, you need that element of good or bad, okay? You could structure it if you want, so you could literally just at the side of your paper go, right, well, one good thing was this, one bad thing was this, one good thing was this, so my conclusion will be it was good overall, okay? But remember AQA, my guys, knowledge. If you literally just show some knowledge of responses, you'll snatch a mark. So if the only thing you wrote was one response to Typhoon Haiyan was that the British government sent shelter kits or that emergency services rescued people, you could just write that and get a mark. So learn how these questions work, because they will help you. And remember that pyramid mentality, okay? What I mean by that is, if you imagine a pyramid, okay, at the bottom, right down here, you've got 1 to 3 marks, then you've got 4 to 6, then right at the top you've got 5 to 7 to 9. These marks right at the bottom, they're really quite easy to snatch, okay? You can get 3 marks on these questions remarkably easily. So see them as opportunities to get lots of marks rather than big scary questions. Again, I'm hoping this is helping, but there you go. Okay, so 2-1, pretty straightforward. 2-2. Now this question is a little bit awry, as I say. Tundra could potentially be an answer here, but the answer, the answer is tundra there. So the tundra is only found in the far north. Now we can see it with the alpine tundra, but for this one it is that one. But what I would say for these, read what you see. Have a pause. So here, describe, say what you see. Physical characteristics of tropical rainforests: warm, humid, wet, high average rain, infertile soils, iron-rich soils, anything like that. 2.4, calculate the percentage decrease between 2004 and 2020. So you find the difference between 2004 and 2020. You then get that difference, okay? And then you, if I remember rightly, you divide that by the original number and times by 100, and that'll get you your decrease. But just double check that, because I'm a geography teacher. And remember, that is the line you're looking for there. Okay. 2.5, have a quick look. So this question here, we've got quite a hefty figure. So when you come across this, read the question first. So we've got to explain the value, tropical rainforest using figure 9. 4 marks, EC times 2, or point evidence, or point explain times 2. And what we're doing is we're reading this and we're taking information from figure 9 and we're using it to explain why the tropical rainforest is valuable. So if I have a little look. Teeming with diverse plants. It's a global climate regulator. Medicines, agriculture, tourism, indigenous communities. So you can see here how important it is. It's crucial for environmental stability, biodiversity. There's so much you can include there. So what you do is you pick out a couple of things and then you just explain them. So you say potentially one way that the rainforest is really valuable is that we get a lot of our medicines from here. This means that we can continue to find cures for new and current illnesses. So you're just trying to show that you understand that the rainforest is valuable. What you have to be careful of in questions like this is something called lifting. Okay, lifting is when you're just picking sentences out and pretty much just writing them in for your answer. You have to show some element of explanation. You have to be able to say, it is important for indigenous communities because. It is important for tourism because. Okay, you have to be able to show some element of understanding there. 2.6, outline how conservation and education can encourage sustainable management of tropical rainforests. So an outline is a hidden explain. Conservation and education can encourage sustainable management. So this is literally just evidence comment. And the point you're trying to make here is education means that future generations keep the rainforest safe because it's passed down, the knowledge is passed down. Conservation protects areas from deforestation. So you can't cut down trees in conservation areas. So again, evidence, comment, hidden explain. This is a hidden explain. And go from there. Okay, we've got some pictures here. It says plants and animals adapt in order to survive in hostile environments. Explain this statement. So for my year 11s, it would be the hot desert. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it was kind of okay. 6 marks, so it's ECS times 2. Right, the big thing on this one that a lot of people just kind of missed is that bit there. A lot of people just missed this hostile environment, okay? So when we're thinking about the desert, well, it gets less than 250 millimeters of rain. It has high temperatures. It has a lack of food. You could mention dust storms. Okay. So these are the kind of things you want to include in this answer. Now, for those of you watching this who did this mock, this is something a lot of you missed. So you were able to say that the camel, as I can see in figure 10, the camel has a hump packed with fat. This means that it can go a long time without eating and can survive in the desert. What you then needed to include was then how this is important because in this hostile environment there is a lack of food. Or because of the high temperatures and lack of water, there is a lack of food. Or camels have long double layer eyelashes. This keeps sand out. This is important because there are often dust storms and sandstorms in the desert. So when you get a question like this, you really need to look out for these kind of statements here because they are asking you to go into more depth. So look out for those. This is a pretty, in terms of a paper one question, this is about as straightforward as they get. You know, plants and animals, how do they adapt? But it's that hostile environment bit that matters. So your 9 marker here for question 2, just have a little look. So for us, it would be the hot desert. It's discuss different strategies to reduce environmental damage and the fringe of a hot desert. Now, if you manage to associate that with desertification, you are on the money. Well done. Now, this discuss is usually quite an open one, so you need to check the context. Sometimes discuss can be used as like a positive or a negative. Sometimes discuss, what it actually is like more of an in-depth explain. But read the context of the question. It's a 9 marker, so it's ECS times 3, potentially a conclusion at the end. And what you need to do is basically talk about how you can reduce desertification. So for example, you've got things like flat top roofs, okay, to help collect rainwater. You've got afforestation. Oh God, I have spelt that so wrong, it's unbelievable. I have had an absolute mare with that one. Afforestation, okay. You could even maybe talk about things like intermediate, well, you should talk about intermediate or appropriate technology. And you're looking to say how these things work. Now again, it is not my job to give you the answers here. If you don't know what appropriate tech is, you've got to go find out. But this is what you're looking for here. You're picking apart the questions. And remember, that is the purpose of these videos, to listen to an expert doing it. Okay. And remember, for a 9 marker, when it is 9 marker, remember for my guys, AQA. Okay. There will be marks for knowledge. There'll be 3 of them. Understanding and application. So you know, if you said in this answer, one strategy that you can use is afforestation, which is when you plant trees, you will get at least a mark there. Because you know a strategy, knowledge, okay? So understand the marks that are available to you. Okay, I'm looking at my time. I think I'm going to overrun, but we'll be all right. Okay. Name the process, LSD. 3-2, just work out the median. I believe it's 1.9. That was quick. Figure 13, straight line distance. So you use your scale line, you use your 6-fig to find the destinations, and then you figure it out. I know for this one, I think it was 9 kilometres, I think. Just remember to convert it. I had a number of students for this one put centimetres. No, make sure you convert it to kilometres. Okay. Don't forget that. Very easy to miss that. You can, right, just pause it for a second, have a read. Now, the big thing here that people missed is this bit. And it gets people every year. Read questions carefully. Okay, you've got to cross out the incorrect answers. Okay, so for us, you'd cross out that one. You'd cross out that one. You'd cross out that one. High, short, high. Okay. So look out for that. Don't miss them. Okay, 3-5, have a look. So, this one, explain the formation of a coastal stack. It is 4 marks. This is, you'll have heard me talking about it, this is a formation question. So this is not ECS, this is process. So firstly, secondly, thirdly, so on. And you've also got here space for a diagram. Now when you've got these diagrams in, you need to take the opportunity to use them. Now you can do this diagram in a number of different ways, but the diagram should support what you're writing about. Okay, so you can see here, drawing a really simple stack diagram. Okay, and it should support what it is that you are doing. Now, what you also need to make sure you're doing, which a few of mine missed, is you just also need to make sure that you are labelling up as well. Okay, help it support you. Okay, easy as that. And you could also maybe add some annotations as well, so you could pop a little bit in. But remember, it is only a 4 marker, so we're not looking for immense detail here. Okay, for a question like this, you would certainly be including erosion and maybe weathering as well. I would always say to my students, if you look at this and you're just not sure, that is revision. Like, you need to revise these. Okay, and with any question, the higher the mark, the higher the detail that is needed. Have a pause, have a read. So coastal management schemes often cause conflict. Explain the statement using a UK coastal management scheme. 6 mark, this is not formation, this is EC, so it'll be ECS times 2. For my guys, this would be Hornsea. Okay, so or the Mapled or the Holderness coast, so any areas along the Holderness coast. And what you're dealing with here is that word there. You're dealing with the notion of conflict. So how do coastal management schemes cause conflict? Now, if you are not sure, if you're sat there thinking, oh, wow, what do I do? What do I write? You need to think about this. You need to think about, well, what do they build to manage erosion? This is the bit you need to get. So, for example, you could have groins. So you could write this into your exam, and seawalls. Okay. So you sat there in your exam and you're thinking, right, I know those two things. Well, what's the problem with these things? And you could say, well, groins, they're quite ugly. Okay, they can restrict movement. Seawalls, again, people can think they're quite ugly, but they're also really expensive. Okay. And then as you develop your detail, you're thinking, well, seawalls often can really upset environmentalists because they can damage the environment. Okay, so environmentalists may not be a fan of them. But on the flip side of that, business owners might quite like them because it keeps their businesses safe. Okay, or homeowners. So with questions like this, what you can really start to do is pick them apart. This is what I'm doing up here. Okay, for my students, I would refer to what I'm doing up here as ripping. I'm pulling the question, I'm ripping the question apart. And all of a sudden there, look, what I've actually developed is a bit of a plan. I've got something I can write about there. Okay, so for example, one way a management scheme can cause conflict is seawalls may upset environmentalists as they can damage the environment and can be an eyesore. However, business owners will often like them because whilst they're expensive, they keep their businesses safe. So you can begin to build an argument there. Okay. So yeah, there you go. I mean, this is the sort of question where, you know, when you look at it initially, you might be a bit like, no, don't like this. But whenever you get a question like this, you've got to slow down and bug it. You have to bug it. Box the command word, underline the keywords, and go over it again. Okay, and give yourself a bit of time, and you will be able to start pulling it apart. And remember, okay, I always say to my guys, that pyramid mentality, even if you only get a couple of marks here, it's better than nothing. Okay, and that might be the difference. Hang on, I've gone all the way back to here. So, okay, right, so 4.1. Give one reason why a river deposits material. It loses energy, the velocity lowers, so it loses energy, something along those lines. 4.2, you've just got to finish it. Again, easy marks. 4.3, the map, admittedly, is not great here, but you often get questions like this in your exams where you've got to find it. So a tributary that is flowing south of Masham. So we can see Masham here. Okay, so we've got to look south of Masham. And if you look, it's there, look. Okay, so you've got to figure out what direction that is flowing in. Okay, well, it's flowing in this direction. So that there is east or southeast, you could have. Storm hydrograph or a flood hydrograph. Again, for me, this is easy as long as you're revising. You've got to be revising here, okay? Let's have a little look. So A's there, B's there, and C's there. Okay, formation of a waterfall. So again, this is a formation question. So this is your process. So this is not ECS. This is firstly, secondly. You'll only really get these in paper one. Thirdly, so on and so forth. Explain. So all you've got to do is show understanding. You've just got to show that you get it. You know how they form. And it's 4 marks. So we're not looking for superb detail here. Just enough to show that you get it. And the kind of diagram you could do like a stepped diagram here. So you could do something a bit like this. So you could draw a waterfall there, but then you could draw it like evolving almost. Okay. So there are multiple ways you can draw your diagrams really. Okay. But then you just want to make sure, like I say, that you want to make sure that you are using labels to help show what is happening. So for example, this bit down here would be the plunge pool. Okay, so again, you need to make sure that your revision is supporting you here. Okay. Again, I'm not here to give you the answers. You know, if you don't know how a waterfall forms, go and revise it. But again, these kind of questions they're as straightforward as you'll get in paper one. This is such a classic geography question. How do you get a waterfall? So using that diagram space, formation, firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally. You might do it in 2 steps. You might do it in 6 steps. Okay, whatever works for you. I remember the higher the mark, the more detail you're going to need. Okay, last one, because I won't do glaciers because my year 11s don't do glaciers. Hi year 11, I hope you're okay. So let's have a look. Named example discusses back costs and benefits of a flood management scheme in the UK. So remember, in-depth explain. ECS times 2. This is not a formation. This is ECS times 2. Our flood management scheme will basically be areas along the River Tees for my guys. So here, for example, I'm thinking, right, well, what can I talk about here? Well, I could talk about floodgates in Yarm. Okay. I could talk about Cow Green Reservoir. I could talk about the Tees Barrage. But just remember that pyramid mentality. You know, if you don't remember Yarm, Cow Green, Tees Barrage, if you give kind of really basic stuff, like you could build floodgates, you could build a dam. If you give basic things, you will pick up some marks. So if you were to say, one management scheme you can use is to build a dam. This is good because it controls river flow. However, they are very expensive to build and maintain. You will get some marks. You just will. You won't get a lot, but you'll get something. And remember, something is better than nothing. Okay, you've got to try every single question. Okay, remember that. It can go a long way. And then that there is your glacial landscapes, which we will not do. So yeah, I mean, hopefully this video was useful for you. Again, the purpose of these videos is for you to watch an expert picking them apart. So if you want to like work with this video, what would be really useful is, as I say again, pausing it, reading it, having a think about how you would answer the questions, and then listening to me. But if you're one of my Year 11s and you are watching this, just to kind of get a sense of where you could have improved in the papers, hopefully this has given you a bit of an idea of where you went wrong and what you needed to do. So, yep, I hope it was all okay for you, and